Okay, evening guys, we're just going to go through how to do a two-stage equation. So the first thing you have to do is you have to know what your functions in maths are. So for example, a plus, the opposite function for a plus is a minus. If I have a multiplier or times, the opposite is a divide. If I have a squared number, then my opposite is a squared root. And if you can keep those things in mind, then that will help you on the next bit. So let's take the example 2x plus 2 equals 10. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a line down the middle. That's just because we call it a balance method. So what I do to this side, I have to do to this side. It's a bit like a seesaw. We've got to make sure it's balanced. So the first thing we do, and we always do this, we always look for the one that's on its own. So for example, 2 plus 2 is on its own, so we're going to try and remove that one first. So we look up to here and think, okay, it's a positive number, so we do the opposite. So we are now going to subtract 2. So I do that on this side here. So 10 subtract 2. That does, of course, mean I've still got my 2x here. I still don't know what x is, but I do know on this side of the equation I've got 8. So we know that when we have a number and a letter next to each other, it secretly means they're times. Some teachers will say to you it's the kissing couple. So I go up to here and I think, okay, the opposite of timed is divide. So I'm now going to divide by 2. So 2 divided by 2. And I do the same here. I'm going to do 8 divided by 2. Remembering what I do to one side, I must do to the other. So basically these two here have now been cancelled out because times 2 divided by 2, it's pretty much going to be down to 0. So I'm now going to do the same here. How many 2's can I get into 8? And the answer should be 4. So let's try another example, just because they sometimes give you lots of different ones. So let's take, for example, 5x minus 5 equals 25. So slightly bigger numbers, but still the same principle applies. But the difference this time is we have minus 5 instead. So I know that my opposite of a minus is a plus. So I'm going to plus 5 here, which means I'm going to do the same to this side here. So I'm now left with 5x equals and 25 plus 5. So I'll do that there for you. 25 plus 5, excuse me, I'm not used to writing on my pad, is 30. So again, I have my kissing couple. So I know the opposite of times is divide. So I am going to do 5x divided by 5. Now this line here does mean divide. Sometimes you'll see divide sign like this. Sometimes, for example, in science it's just like a slash. And sometimes it kind of looks like a fraction. They all mean the same thing, it all means divide. So there we go. I'm going to do the same on this side. So divided by this side, I'm doing the same here. They cancel out. So I've now got little x all sitting on his own. And now I go, well, how many 5's go into 35? Well, hopefully, guys, you should know that that is 6. So there's the absolute basics of our two-stage equation. But I am aware that some of you will find that quite difficult. So there is a different method that you could choose to use. So let's go back and pick our 2x plus 2 equals 10 example. And then we recall BODMAS. Now, normally in BODMAS we go this way. But if we're going to use it in algebra, we're actually going to go backwards. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract, because there's my s, s means subtract, I'm going to subtract the 2. So 10 to take away from 2 is going to give me 8, so I've done that one. Is there an add? Well, there was an add there, but we've kind of done the opposite of that, so we don't have to do that one. Is there a multiply? Well, these two here are multiplied, so we've got, for example, these two here are multiplied together, so we're going to do the opposite and do divide. So divide by 2, divide by 2, x equals 4. It's a bit more of a, to be honest, I prefer the balanced one because it's all set out in stages. However, you can literally just do the inverse. So by inverse, I mean the opposite. So for example, if you had 5x minus, let's make that 25, minus 10 equals 15, you'd go back this way. So on this part here, rather than minus 10, you would plus 10. And as you move along, rather than times by 25, you would divide by 25. And by doing that, you would then still get your answer. So I'm hoping that's been a quick just example on how you do two-stage equations. There are more complicated ones, especially when we have a divide over on the side, but I'll do that on my next one. Thank you guys.